everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Rugby with Pads. I'm your host, Sam, and yes, I know, elephant in the room, cue elephant sound effects if I've got them. I haven't been around for a little while. It's been a fair few months since I've darkened your audio or visual entertainment consumption. It's been busy, man. It's been busy. Towards the end of the fantasy season last season, everything got a little bit too much, so I had to let one thing go, and I'm really sorry that it was yourselves. But as the board says behind me, I'm back, hopefully for good. And I will be trying to do something a bit different every season, and this is officially the kickoff of season 3 of Rugby with Pads. I've tried to do something a little bit different. First season was finding my feet. Second season was more about getting a wider breadth of content, and that was a little bit burning out, really. Doing 2 to 3 shows a week around my day job, because unfortunately this doesn't pay the bills. To my left, I do my day job, and to my right here, where I'm with you guys, I do my do my fun hobby and experiments with Rugby with Pads and fantasy. It's very difficult to keep up, and I was really struggling at one point, and I just had to let things go, and it seemed to be the best case. And family work takes priority, and if any of you are in that situation, I urge you to make family a priority. It's really, really key. But you're not here for personal advice. You're here for professional advice on fantasy football. And I'm going to kick off today with something slightly different. I'm going to look at what we've missed, because I realise we've missed a long time. And during the time that I haven't been, darkening your door, we've had the Super Bowl, we've had trades, we've had free agency, we've had so much going on, and we're just about to head into the draft. So this week you are going to get a couple of shows. You are going to get this show, and we're going to get which today we're going to handle everything we've missed in terms of important free agency and trade impacts. All the changes that we've gone through. We've ranked them from 1 to 5 in terms of kind of tiers of importance and impact. And we're going to let you know what's changed. So, last year you might not have touched your fantasy team unless you play heaps of Dynasty like I do. Since you last looked at it. So, what have you missed? What's changed? How do I reorientate myself? This is going to help you. In a couple of days' time, we've got the draft coming up on Thursday, in fact. So I will try and do a show where I do a bit of a it's not even a hard thing to think of. I'm a bit rusty, as you can tell, but I'll be doing a mock draft, and I'll be doing a bit of a retrospective after that of what I think the impact of the draft is as well. I'll then get into some more usual content as we get into proper draft season. I've got some cool updates about the Scott Fish Bowl, which I'm going to be participating in as an industry member. I'm going to be at one of the in-person drafts in London, which I'm really, really looking forward to. First time I've done it, and the last time I've done Scott Fish Bowl for a couple of years now. So it's really nice to get back involved there. I'm doing my own charity draft as well, so encourage you guys to join in with that as well. That's going to take form of the Zombie League, which we're going to be doing more of this year. We've got a brand new format called Franchise Mode, which I'll take you through on another episode. And if those of you in the Franchise Mode are listening, we'll go through and we'll do some of the the deep dives, because it's a hell of a thing, and all of the standard content you expect. I suspect when we get into the season proper, I will be doing maybe 1 show a week rather than the 2 or 3 I was doing, because it was just too much. But just to give you an idea of where I'm at and what we're looking to do. But today you came for what you've missed, and hopefully you've missed me, maybe. But you've missed a lot if you haven't been keeping track of free agency. And I've tried to track everything and make sure I'm up to date. But without further ado, let's get into this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to break these down into tiers, effectively, E through A tier or F through A tier in terms of their fancy importance. And there are some that I'm going to start with that you might think, are they really that important? But what we're doing is we're building to something that's really important. Now, when I'm talking about fancy importance, I'm not talking necessarily about how good is this player going to be for fantasy, but also the impact they might have on other players. So we'll get into it, but you might notice a few guys who stand out as really them, but they might have a really good impact on players. So we'll get into it. I haven't gone down the line of going to defenses and offensive lineman, because that is a level of artistry in the analysis that I do not intend to get involved in. But yeah, we all get a steer from these kind of things. This is as always is a guidance. It's beginner, intermediate level stuff that you can get your teeth into and go and build your own stuff off as well. So without further ado, let's get into this. And we'll start with my first tier, my 1 out of 5, 1 stars. Let's just do 2 stars. My 1-star moves. There's only 2 of them here that I just wasn't impressed by. CJ Uzama has been a bit of a journeyman, and I look up on my other screen where he's been. It feels like he's been everywhere. I think he was at the Bengals for a little while. I think he's been at the Jets most recently, and now he lands with the Eagles. And I just think, all right, he's just another guy. And I feel like Eagles fans got quite excited by it, and I was not. He's a 31-year-old. I didn't realize he was 31. 31-year-old tight end with the Eagles now. As I said, he's had a bit of a storied history. He's never really landed anywhere, despite being one of those guys that is always finds on a fancy roster, even in redraft. As I said, yeah, he was with the Bengals for 6 years, New York Jets for, it looks like 2 seasons, and now he's with the Eagles. The Eagles are weird because we'll see in other areas. They've gotten stronger in some areas and weaker in others. And I think one of the places they've got weaker since Zach Ertz left probably is tight end. Last year, I don't think I really trusted Dallas Goedert. They're throwing the ball less. Yes, there was some offensive and defensive coordinator issues there. Lots of things changing. But it's not a position that I'm keen on going after. So I'm going to put that down as a 1. Another one just to get it off my back, because as you've noticed from the background, if you're watching on YouTube, I am a Rams fan. I have been for a very long time, for 18 years now since I first saw them in a preseason game in 2007, probably 2006, 2007, sometime like that. Jimmy G is now with the Rams. We have a second quarterback. That's what I don't care. Jimmy G is also going to be suspended for, I think, at least 2 games, maybe 3. But he's a good enough guy to throw the ball short, and I think it's not going to change much if he comes in relief from Matthew Stafford, of which he had a great documentary. By the way, go see Matt Stafford's documentary of last year. I think it's called Locked In. It's on YouTube. It's free to watch. It's 45 minutes long, and I thought it was really interesting, kind of retrospective of the season, and a really, really good picture of Matt Stafford. And I think he's going to be around for a while, but I think during that time he will miss games because he plays beat up. So having Jimmy G in there, minor importance. I don't think it changes any perspective on anyone else who's playing. Okay, let's get into people who you actually care about. These are my 2-star guys, and I'm going to start off with a double whammy because one of them was added more recently. The Gus Bus. Now, when he first went to Chargers from the Ravens, we were all excited. He's like, oh, Gus is finally going to get the bell cow back. He's going to run the ball. No, they've also got J.K. Dobbins, and they're probably going to draft one as well. Harbaugh and Greg Roman, are going to look to run the ball through probably multiple backs. You might see 4 backs in any one given game. They are Ravens version 2, and I think it's going to be really interesting. I think they're going to be a worse version of the Ravens, but they're sticking to a game plan, and I think they're going to be successful. I think they're probably going to be a 10-win team this year, especially based on the competition in their division at the moment. But yeah, I'm not excited about either of these guys. I think it elevates them slightly because maybe they get out from underneath the Ravenness or the Ravens and Lamar. They don't have to compete with Lamar, I guess, because Herbert is not going to be doing that kind of dynamic running. But yeah, it's not something that I'm jumping out of bed for. And there's another duo who are now at the Steelers. There's Cordero Patterson and Van Jefferson, who I've given 2 stars as well. Yeah, they're interesting. They're going to be involved, and they're going to have to be because there's no one else. They've lost. I think they're kind of number 1 wide receiver at the moment is George Pickens, who is so inconsistent. You're not really that keen on fantasy. It elevates Van Jefferson. I think it elevates Patterson to where he might have been. I think with the new kickoff rules, that's why they really brought in Patterson to see if they could nail down that piece in special teams. But I think he will be involved in targets, and I think we'll see much more rotation. I don't think it affects either Jalen Warren or Najee Harris particularly. I'm not up on any of them. I think it's going to be a pretty weak Steelers team. Will they squeeze out a 500 year? Mike Tomlin always finds a way, so probably. But I don't think it's someone that you're going to get that excited for fantasy. Joe Flacco to the Colts, I thought was an interesting one. I think it has got fantasy relevance because I think we don't know about the injury history or the injury future. Sorry, we do know about the injury history of Anthony Richardson. We don't know about the future. Flacco was good for fantasy last year, and yeah, maybe he's got another chance to be good as well. We'll have to see. But I think Flacco to the Colts is a good buy for the Colts, and it gives a veteran presence, and hopefully that means that in my weird thinking, Anthony Richardson can become a better passer as well. So he's got that steady guidance from someone in the locker room as well. Donta Foreman to the Browns. It does have fancy relevance, but I think only because it doesn't look like Nick Chubb will be fully go from day one of the season. I think Foreman is a useful enough back. They've got plenty of other guys there as well who are useful enough. I think they're just going to try and throw things at the wall until something sticks before Chubb comes back. And the hope is that Chubb does come back. I think that is a real thing. But it's worth putting on your radar as a handcuff as well. KJ Osborne going from the Vikings to the Pats in free agency. I'm so meh on the Pats. Until they get a dynamic thrower of the ball, I'm just not interested. Obviously, Mac Jones, who does not make this list, went for a 6th round pick to the Jags to back up Trevor Lawrence. Yeah, he's not even on my radar on this one. But KJ Osborne, without a thrower, he's not a number 1. He's not a number 2. He's probably a 3 or 4. He's a special teams contributor. He's consistent, but he's not going to light up the world for fantasy. Someone else who's not going to light up the world for fantasy, but could be interesting still, is Hayden Hurst. He's now with the Chargers. I like this move, and not for fantasy. I'm not going to pick up Hayden Hurst, but I think they're just going to stick and run the ball. So I think what it does is it elevates any of the guys you do have as running backs for the team, because he's a great blocking tight end, and I'm really interested to see that. But again, I think it's diluted, and maybe I should have had a 1.5 tier. The Chargers moves just don't excite me until they get a dynamic pass catcher. You're not going to light up the world, are you? Donovan Peoples-Jones is now at the Lions. He's moved on from the Browns, I believe. I think it's interesting, actually, and he hasn't shown much, but there is a lot of vacated targets coming from Josh Reynolds, who's moved on as well. And we'll get on to him in a minute. Now, there is this... I wouldn't expect Josh Reynolds coming out of this. Vacated targets typically go to the running back, or more so. We see more of an uptick to the running back than the person who's coming to replace them. I think that speaks volumes in the Lions offense, because I think they're going to get much more involved with Jahmyr Gibbs in the passing game as well as the running game. So I think DPJ has a secondary effect of being... he's a decent enough blocker. He's a journeyman. He is a KJ Osborne type. Whether he'll make a big difference, I don't know. But I think the move makes a big difference for fantasy, because I think it actually probably benefits Jahmyr Gibbs considerably. Drew Lock going to the Giants, I think is relevant. I don't know why. I'm not convinced, and we'll talk about this in the mock draft episode for the actual NFL, not fancy mock draft, actual NFL. We do some of that too occasionally. Drew Lock to the Giants seems like a safety valve, as in, if Daniel Jones is broken, let's get a slightly more mature Drew Lock than he was a few years ago when he was doing his Superman stuff and all his, not grittying, but whatever he was dancing to over in Denver. He leveled up last year, and when we did see him play, he won a game. So... you know what? Is he someone who can throw deep? Yes. I think that's someone they need. Have they got someone they can throw deep to? No. But I think Drew Lock to the Giants makes it interesting, because I think it reduces Daniel Jones' value even further. He's dropped in ADP in best ball from 14 to 33, so he's not even considered a starter. Yeah, Drew Lock is an interesting one for me. Another quarterback who is coming as backup is Jameis, and now at the Browns. I think this is fantasy relevant because I think if Deshaun Watson doesn't show up, Jameis, who has an equally well, not quite equally, but a checkered past nonetheless, I think he could vie for the starting role. And if they're going to be chasing games because Watson's let them down, well, who better than have Jameis throw 30 picks? No, he will make it interesting at the very least, and he will make it fancy relevant for people like Jerry Jeudy, who's now there as well, and we'll get onto that in a minute. But Amari Cooper and the rest of the guys, I think it could be a really interesting move. Mattison to Vegas, I put in a 2 here. I'm maybe a bit tempered on it now because I'm still thinking they might go after someone in the draft. I'm not sure. I'll have to have a look, but I'm not sure if Alexander Mattison actually got in the end zone last year. I read a stat somewhere. He's not a number one. Yeah, he didn't get any TDs last year. I did not realise that. 180 attempts, 700 yards, 3.9 average, 0 TDs, 30 receptions. He's another guy, and I think they've got a team full of other guys. I'm really not that impressed by them. Zamir White maybe is the one, but I'm not hot on him. I'm actually going to demote Mattison to a 1 because I'm just not interested in that as well. Another running back I'm not interested in, and trust me, it does get better. These are not just guys I'm not interested in. Is Antonio Gibson to the Pats. He could have gone so many places and been so good, but he is just going to be James White. Could be worse, I guess. But no, he's not. It's not an impressive move. I just don't rate the Pats' offense and potential offense this year because we don't know what it's going to look like under Jared Mayo. But yeah, not an exciting one. I think he's going to be just another guy, and it, if anything, it just worsens any Ramondre shares that you might have. And finally, in this second tier, I've got Jonnu Smith, and it's almost like a bit of a nod. Jonnu Smith tore it up in some games. And I think that's maybe what the Dolphins need. They just need the big body presence. They haven't had it since Mike Gesicki left. And maybe that just gives them the edge. And I think it's fancy relevant because it just gives another person to think about. Just to think about when it comes to the passing game, because you know it's Jalen Waddle, you know it's Tyreek Hill going to go long, going to go fast, or it's going to be a screen game, and Mostert and Devin Achane are going to do their thing. I think Jonnu just kind of mix it up a little bit. He's a big body, and he will get in the end zone more often than you might like for fantasy. Right, we're just going to plow through. Let's do this. Let's do this. Already mentioned before, Josh Reynolds. He's gone to the Broncos from the Lions. Sorry, Detroit Lions. I like this, and although there are vacated targets, and I've already said they normally go to the running back, it's also a completely new system. They basically don't have a quarterback right now. They've got Jared Stidham. Whether they're going to go up in the draft, I don't know. Whether it's going to be another rebuild year, I don't know. We'll have to see. But I think Josh Reynolds can demand targets probably more so than Jerry Jeudy ever did. So this could be his breakout. I really do believe. We'll have to see whether Josh Reynolds was just good in Detroit because of Jared Goff, because they've been there for so long, or whether he was just better out of a McVay system. We'll have to see. Next one, I know we've got another double. And it's another double for the Steelers as well. We've got Fields and Russ going to the Steelers, changing the QB back room completely. I've got him down as a 3-star. I like this move. I think whoever it's going to be, and I'm not drafting either of them to be a starter in any redraft leagues or even dynasty leagues. I'm steering clear, but I think it has a positive impact on the team based on the fact that Kenny Pickett and Mason Rudolph were trash. That's it. It must be better. I think if Fields gets a chance to rest, watch, and this is a vintage Russ, that'd be great. But I don't think it's going to be, and I think we'll see Fields probably sooner than later, especially for the fact that they've basically spent nothing on these two guys, and they need to decide what they've got in Fields sooner rather than later, because that fifth-year option is going to come up sooner than you think. Jerry Jeudy is my next 3-star recruit here for the Browns. It was a big money move. I remember. I'm just going to have a quick look at what the terms were, but I feel like they've already given him a decent contract, haven't they? They've given him a $58 million contract with $41 million guaranteed. That's pretty big. And let's see what it was traded for. It was a pair of late round draft picks. So it wasn't much. They didn't spend much on the draft side of things, but they spent much in cash, especially seeming as they've got one of the most expensive quarterbacks there. And maybe this is just to prove whether they have a good quarterback that they've spent money on, consistently spent money on as well. I don't mind this move for Judy. He's better than DPJ. That's about it, really. I'm not sure if this is going to be a good move or a bad move, but it's interesting nonetheless. And hopefully it should give them no excuses should Deshaun Watson not be able to, play the guitar as he once did. Another big money move, Calvin Ridley to the Titans. I think he got like 92 million. Big for a 27-year-old who missed a year of the league as well and who didn't really perform that well last year. I think Ridley to the Titans is an interesting one because he is going to be playing opposite DeAndre Hopkins, who is lost a step but is an elite separator. He is a jump ball specialist. Ridley is a great route runner, so hopefully that tends to good separation. Whether they have someone who can throw the ball or not, I don't know. But I think if Will Levis is in there, it gives him another good option, something they didn't have. They had one of the worst passing attacks, one of the worst attacks, full stop. They still need to improve on offensive line to make the Ridley investment work, and I think they'll do that during the draft. I'm interested in this one. Gerald Everett to the Bears, and there's a fair few Bears here that we'll get into in the higher tiers, and you probably guess who's towards the top here. But Gerald Everett to the Bears, I think was sneaky good. Gerald Everett has always demanded targets. He's not your prototypical big body blocker, so he's going to have to be fantasy relevant to be included in the game because he's not going to stand there as your seventh lineman or anything like that. He is not a Darnell Washington or someone like that who doesn't touch the ball. He's not a Hurst who is a hybrid. He is a pure pass catching tight end, and he's got in the end zone in previous years. So I think in a scheme that it could be friendly to the tight end. I know they've got. Oh, I can't remember his name now. It's been a while. If you can't tell, I'm a little bit rusty on my names here. Begins with a C. I'm going to have to look it up as well. But they've got another tight end who has been paid money already. A Bears tight end. Let's have a look. Cole Kmet. I knew it began with a C. Cole Kmet. They've got Cole Kmet who has been paid quite a lot, but now they've obviously got Robert Tonyan is under contract as well. They had Jimmy Graham at one point as well. No, Jimmy Graham was at the Saints last year, wasn't he, or something like that? But they've got a couple of guys there who could be useful. I think they're probably just trying to give Caleb Williams, who will be coming in, the best opportunity, give him those short targets and out routes to make sure he doesn't get flattened. So I think this could be good and positive because they've got effectively two wide receivers set with more tight ends than you can count. I think this could be a really interesting signing, and I think it could be really interesting for Caleb Williams because I think he's going to be better than we think. Not CJ Stroud first year good, but considerably better than Bryce Young was last year. Mike Gesicki and the Bengals. Have the Bengals finally found their pass catching tight end? Potentially. Tyler Boyd leaving. T. Higgins questionable whether he's going to be there. Yeah, they have some people potentially stepping up like Yoshivas, but I think this is an interesting one. Gesicki obviously didn't do that great in Patriot Land, but that was because Hunter Henry those targets and he was a better blocker. Gesicki is not a blocker. He is very much an Everett type player, but he is bigger. I like this, and I think he is going to be fantasy relevant once again, as he was with the Dolphins. Colby Parkinson is an interesting one. Sticking with that tight end flow here. Colby Parkinson is a blocking tight end, and I'm going to bring up his stats in a minute because they are not impressive. And when I saw this, I had to question. I was like, why? Because he got paid a lot of money. I believe. I think it was something like 14 million or something silly like that. And I was interested in this because I was thinking, why did they do this? Why? Because they have Higbee, who is, yes, he's getting on a little bit, and Colby Parkinson is younger, but they're not the same player. Colby Parkinson is a few years in now. He's 25. Last year he had 25 receptions, 240 yards, 2 touchdowns. Average of 9.9. Okay, so he's a slightly kind of, higher average depth of target guy. He's only ever had 60 receptions in his entire season, in his entire career, and he has been playing for 4 seasons already. So it's not much. So last year was definitely a high on targets. It was not a high in yardage. Again, I'm questioning why he's never gone more than 2. I'll tell you why. Anyway, he's a blocking tight end. I know I put Hayden Hurst much lower down in this one, but I think this makes a lot more sense. Sean McVay wants to establish the run. And can he do that with all his changes O-line? Yeah, you probably can. There's going to be some development there. They were obviously significantly better than expected last year, but I think Colby Parkinson brings something to the game a little bit. And he is a big-bodied guy. Let's have a look at his He's 6'6", 6'7", something like that. 113 kg, which is what 250 odd pounds or something like that. He's a big chunky dude, and I think he is going to be a bit of a wrecker on the edge there. So going for those zone runs, I think it's going to be really interesting. I think it's going to boost Kyron Williams' stock no end. And with the screenplay, the jet play, the sweeps, all of that kind of stuff that you get out of Puka, that you get out of Cooper Cup, this could be a really devastating running attack. And I am bullish. I'm up on Kyron Williams right now because of that move. Gardner Minshew to the Raiders, I have put as a 3, but I'm maybe tempering my expectations depending on what happens in the draft. He's good, and they've given him money. They've given him like 15 million as well. It's not big money, but he is kind of on the next tier below Geno in terms of the money stakes. Enough that it hurts if you don't play him, but not enough that you couldn't replace him with someone else. But I think he elevates some other players. He's going to be significantly better. And he showed it. He won games on his feet. He showed some immaturity last year, but for the Colts, in replacement of Anthony Richardson, and as close as he can get to a full season, I think he was really, really good, and he will make Devontae Adams look better than Jimmy G ever did. And finally, in my 3-tier, Pollard. Now, and he has fancy impact because so many people just went, Ty Spears is the guy. He's going to replace all the targets for all targets and all the runs from Derrick Henry. No, Pollard's going to nick him. Maybe he's still your between the 20s. Ty Spears isn't that much bigger though, but yeah, he's interesting. And Pollard is going to be the back because they paid him as such as well. They paid him above the market rate when it comes to that tag as well. Oh no, actually no. I think he was paid. He was on the tag last year. Let's have a look. Pollard contract. Maybe it was only like 6 million. I've seen a lot of things here. Nope, 3-year, 24 million contract. That's big. That's really big. Wow. Yeah. He'll be the number 1. Sorry, Ty J. Yes, Ty J Spears will be good to have as a handcuff, but they'll obviously look to be improving on the offensive line. I like the Titans a little bit better. I think if they stick with Will Levis, they could get something out of it. I'll have to see. So those are your kind of mid-tier guys. Let's get on to the superstars. And it was a very high bar to get into my 5-star ratings here. So there's a lot more 4s than there are 5s, and you'll notice some big superstars here. This is in no particular order. This is just how they kind of came off my dome when I was thinking about this and looking down the transaction history. But let's start with the diva himself, Stefon Diggs. Going to Houston, I really like this, and I've come full circle. I didn't like it to start with because I thought, well, he's just going to get outplayed by the likes of I've forgotten his name now. Nico Collins and co. Dalton Schultz signed a long-term deal so that he's a go-to target. But no, Diggs is going to demand targets, and he's going to be good. I don't know whether it'll be good for Diggs, but it will certainly be very good for CJ Stroud. And I think it was so good for CJ Stroud that I've elevated CJ Stroud right to the top of my board. He is my kind of QB. He's just outside the elite QBs. He's probably my QB 7 at the moment, kind of based on my initial rankings. He's going to be really good. And I think Diggs is going to make him good because Diggs is on a 1-year prove-it deal. Not necessarily prove it to Houston, but prove it to the rest of the world that he can still do it at age 29, 30. I don't know how old he is. Let's have a look while we're having a look at this now. But yeah, how old is he? He's in his age 30 season. Is he going to prove it? And I say that as a person who would never, who thinks that's young these days at 35 years young myself. But Diggs is, later on in his career, he's played a lot. Can he prove it, and can he get one final big, on market deal? Maybe. We'll have to see. Another guy who's a bit older, who I really love though, but I love him for everything else that he gives, is Mike Williams. I love Mike Williams, and I was so upset, not because I traded a second for him last year in my semi all-in season, but Mike Williams to the Jets, I think, makes so much sense. It's a big-bodied guy to play opposite. I don't think he's going to get huge volume. I think he's going to be the big splash play. He's going to be great for standard. He's not going to be great for PPR, but he will make Sauce Gardner look better, and he will make Aaron Rodgers look good as well. I really like this. I think it has huge fantasy impact, and I think it opens up the running game as well. Now that you can have a legitimate play action game with Mike Williams, Sauce Gardner, and of course Aaron Rodgers, who is the king of not handing it off. Hollywood Brown to the Chiefs, I think, has a lot of fantasy relevance. Not necessarily good or bad for him. I think now with the spectre of Rashee Rice potentially missing a fair amount of games, I don't want to go into that, but yeah, it's a bit unsavory. I think Hollywood isn't going to be the one. Kelsey is still the one, and Rashee Rice will be the number 2 when he's in there. I still think it'll be that kind of game, but Hollywood gives him another dimension, and it just makes. I don't know where Patrick Mahomes came last year, but it felt like he was bad for where you drafted him. I think it pushes him back into he's all right. You draft him. I think it's also a prove it year for Hollywood. So let's see if Marquise does what he wants to do and really goes for it. He obviously moved to Arizona to be with his not high school, his college quarterback in Kyler Murray. Didn't quite work out there for various reasons. They stuck to the run a huge amount last year. Let's hope that's not the same for Hollywood, and I think he will be a contributor. In the vein of MVS, but I think it elevates the other positions around him. I think it elevates Patrick Mahomes by no end. Just giving him another target rather than knowing that Kelsey's going to get targeted 12 times a game. Mixon to Houston again. I love this. I think it gives Mixon a new lease on life. I really do like this a lot. What can I say? I think Mixon was sneaky good last year, and I think he'll be sneaky good this year. And he's a huge uplift from Devin Singletary and co. I haven't even put Singletary on this list. I don't even know where he's at these days. Nope, can't even remember now. But not somewhere that you'd be shouting about. Mixon, I think, is a fantastic back. He is obviously out from under the spectre of his menacing charges. And with Houston, I think he could have a bit of a new lease on life. Yes, he's going into kind of 28, 29 years old, along with a few of these guys. But I think this year you're going to be drafting older backs because the younger generation haven't really come through taking it as their own. Aaron Jones is in the mix as well. He's now gone elsewhere in the NFC North after being slighted, I guess. After having the best running back duo trio in Josh Jacobs, Aaron Jones, and A.J. Dillon for all of 30 seconds. He's obviously off to the Vikings now after being usurped by Mr. Jacobs. But I think this could be really relevant, and having a senior presence in the back room, in the backfield, sorry, for a young quarterback. So I think they are going to bring someone in who's going to be under Sam Darnold, but I think Sam Darnold will be on a very short leash. I think could be really interesting for the Vikings. If it's a JJ McCarthy, I'm in. If it's a Jalen Daniels, I'm definitely in. If it's a Drake May, I'm neither here nor there really. But I think the Vikings could be a secretly okay team for fantasy in the second half, and we'll have to see how that goes. And Aaron Jones is known for targets, so yeah, let's see what he can do. Ossinek to the Commanders. Yeah, I like it. I think I think it has an impact on a lot of people. Again, I think he will be good to reset his career a little bit and get back to what he does best, which is catching the ball in the backfield. He is taking over the Antonio Gibson role, but maybe being given a bit more trust because he's got a better backlog of work. I think Brian Robinson will still be involved, whether they go for someone else, whether they promote Chris Rodriguez into the rotation as well. I don't know, but they are likely to have a new quarterback as well. I think they're sitting with Jacoby Brissett at the moment. Maybe not. So maybe, oh no, he's at the Pats at the moment. So they're going to be going after a new quarterback at some stage. How he'll pan out, I think he'll be okay. Again, he won't be the heady heights, but I think it has an impact on everyone else in the team. And I think it just opens up the game to being less one-dimensional for the Commanders and, gives people like Terry McLaurin and Jahan Dotson a chance to be fantasy relevant once again. Gabe Davis is frustrating. Say no more about it. He was very frustrating at the Bills. I think he's going to be significantly better at the Jags. I don't think he's going to have the expectation to be the one. I still think he will be a burner on the outside, and I think it's weird because you think that Josh Allen's got incredible arm strength, but Josh Allen is also a running back. Trevor Lawrence is not. Trevor Lawrence is not. Yes, he scrambles occasionally. But he is a pure passer, and I think that is going to be great for Gabe Davis's game. I think Gabe Davis is a better acquisition than Calvin Ridley, and that is my hot take for the day, probably. So I'm really interested to see where Gabe goes, and I think he is going to be a fancy darling once again, but he will have those games where he disappears. I think he is incredibly fancy relevant, and that's why he makes kind of towards the top end of my 4-star list here. And finally, in the 4-star list, we've got DeAndre Swift going to the Bears. There's a lot of Bears here, as I've said, and this one was really difficult. DeAndre Swift was secretly good. And I'm going to just look up his stats for last year, but I think he was near leading the league in yards from scrimmage. 229 attempts, 4.6 yards per average, 1,049. So he broke 1,000 yards for maybe one of the first times in his career. Actually, I don't know. 5 TDs on the ground, and in an offense that has Jalen Hurts as your primary running back. I think that's really impressive. And 39 catches. I think he's good, and you want someone like that for a rookie QB. Rookie QB is going to be looking to check it down. He's going to be looking towards the tight end. He's going to be looking towards these guys. I think all this makes Caleb Williams really, really enticing. He's not ever going to be more than a top 20 guy for me in the way I'm drafting. He's going to be a late round flyer, but Caleb Williams has, in my opinion, such a high floor now based on all the weapons he's got around him. And I think Swift contributes that. Again, the play action game, all of that fun stuff. He's great in pass pro. He's got a really, really good setup ahead of him. Okay, that's your 1 to 5s, and that's how we're going to end. No, we're going to come back. We're going to continue on, and we're just going to go for the final 3 guys. And there were 3 guys I wanted to put in this tier as being elite. And I denied it. I almost put Swift in there for the fantasy impact, but I couldn't not put these 3 names in here. And I'm going to start off with one of the least. I was on the fence about it. It could have gone either way with him and Swift. But Saquon Barkley now at the Eagles. I wrote down Giants here. That's where he came from. Don't know why I did that. But now with the Eagles, this just makes sense in my head, fancy-wise. Whether it will pan out or not. Obviously, we just talked about what Swift did. I think Saquon can do that, but more. They are going to have a more. Hopefully, they'll land on an OC combination they want. But Saquon has to prove it. He is so gifted and so athletic and so thighs. Did I say thighs? I said thighs. Quad master, whatever you want to call him. He's not the quad father. I think that's AJ Dillon, but. My goodness, the boy can squat, and I think it'll be a squat off between him and Jalen Hurts pretty much every week. But I can see Saquon Barkley doing bits over there in Philadelphia. We're going to return to the Bears because, of course, Keenan Allen now with the Bears, the perfect 1-2 punch with DJ Moore there. Obviously getting on a bit. I think he's probably 31 now, kind of that sneaky old, but he's been around for a long time. So wise. He is going to be a PPR monster. And again, this all speaks to not only will he be good there because of the setup they've got and everything around him, there's so many complementary pieces. I like the Bears this year. I think they'll make a playoff position potentially. We'll have to see how Caleb Williams goes. Does he hit the ground running or not? But I really like the Bears this year, and yeah, I think Keenan is going to be a big part of that, and I think he's going to elevate DJ Moore's game a lot as well, because it gives DJ Moore the ability to go and be the athlete that he is. Not saying that Keenan Allen is not. Keenan Allen is wise. He'll sit down in open zones, etc., which leaves DJ Moore to just blow everyone apart as he is wont to do, and go for those big plays that we want to see. And finally, of course, Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry being top of the list, he should be in a 6-star on his own, but he makes the top of the 5-star list here. Running Ravens, Derrick Henry. I really like this. Go after him. He is well in the conversation to being a top 5 running back now. After we were all very much down on him for the last couple of years, pretty much after some of his historic seasons. I really like this, and I think the Ravens are going to be great. And it's just another thing for people to worry about when you're looking at the Ravens. Yes, they don't really have a passing attack, and they do need a wide receiver. They've got Mark Andrews. They've got Isaiah Likely, though. They've got Zay Flowers. Sorry, Rashad Bateman. He's a 3 maybe at best. But Henry, are we going to finally see the bell cow role that the Ravens have always needed? I think so. I think he will get run into the ground, but it frees up so much Lamar. I think this is so incredibly fancy relevant, and you just want a piece of the Ravens offense now. Because even if you've got Zay Flowers and you're thinking, oh, he's not going to get targeted much, he's going to go for big plays because of this, because you set at that play action game. Really excited about it. So that's your lot, guys. But I've got one more, and I wanted to mention this because this show is called Rugby with Pads, and it's obviously, if you hadn't picked up on it already, it's a bit of a joke around rugby, American football being seen as a game of rugby played in pads. I didn't need to explain that to you, did I, guys? I'm meant to be more relevant there. But as part of the IPP program, and I encourage anyone to go and look at it, it's the International Player Pathway Program. There was a fair few players coming from Gaelic football and rugby and other places in the UK, Europe, Africa, beyond as well, who played. And one of those was, it just stood out. Welsh international and former British and Irish Lions Lewis Rees-Zammit has signed with the Kansas City Chiefs. Yeah, it's a developmental contract, but he'll probably be practice squad potentially, but kind of on that fringe, be a special teams guys. But judging by how they went after him, and he had, I think he had better offers elsewhere as well. The fact he landed with KC, I think it is fancy relevant, because it just gives you a superlative athlete who is always going to be there and is going to set them up. If he's on returns, he's going to set them up in good positions. Yes, he probably doesn't have the know-how when it comes to the blocking game and stuff like that, but he'll learn that kind of stuff because he is dedicated to the game. And he's the kind of, his dad played in the Euro League. He's the kind of guy who doesn't come into this because he's just an athlete. He's come into this because he loves the game and he always wanted to do this. So honourable mention to Lewis Rees-Zammit. I just wanted to call him out there, not only because I'm a rugby fan as well, but I'm a Wales fan, and I love Lewis Rees-Zammit, and I'm really excited to watch his journey. But that's your episode today, guys. Thank you so much. No plugs other than the usual. Rugbywithpads.com will be refreshed soon as well. And you can always go to store.rugbywithpads. Again, will be refreshed soon with some new merch. I'm getting embroidered stuff and some new logos and all this kind of stuff. So if you're interested in supporting, or if you're already a supporter, new stuff will be coming as well. I just need to get back into the flow of things. Thank you so much for listening. As always, I will be back later on this week with a draft episode for the actual NFL rookie draft. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll say it for the first time in a long time. I will see you all soon on the Virtual Gridiron.